Hit record. Okay, welcome to the Alumni Masterclass on remote work technology. We're going to breeze through these subjects, these technologies pretty quickly. That being said, I do use text-heavy slide decks. You don't need to take notes. I'm going to be sending out a recording as well as the slide deck itself, as well as all the links that we're going to be talking about. We're going to go through this content relatively quickly. I'm totally happy to answer questions. This is just a primer on the basics of remote technology. And if we do end up with some advanced questions, I'll be happy to help with those as well. All right, so let me start presenting. And standard presentation. Okay, so in terms of remote technology, let me tell you a little bit about what I mean by that. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out where I want this view. What we're going to be talking about today, I have to move this little bar for my own site. We're going to be talking about cloud computing tools. Cloud computing was in the top 10 of in-demand skills according to LinkedIn for 2020. That was pre-pandemic. Even post-pandemic, these tools are even more core to your success in a job search and in a professional workplace. We'll talk about some real-time communication tools. We'll talk about some project management or project tracking tools. And then we'll talk about video conferencing tools, which have a lot in common with some real-time communication tools. And we'll also talk about content management systems. I'm not going to go into a lot of depth around kind of advanced tech. We're going to do the basics. I might refer to a couple advanced tech subjects, but I am 100% self-taught in terms of my knowledge of any of these tools. I am not going to be talking about developer tools. This is the basics of remote technology that basically you would need in every industry. If I'm using it in higher ed, you'll be using it in every industry. Higher ed is generally 15 years behind. All right, so let's talk about cloud computing. Now this one will, if you're on the younger end of the spectrum, you'll be like, well, how is this a skill? Everybody knows how to use cloud tools, right? Not necessarily. If you are someone who hasn't dipped into Google Drive or hasn't dipped into Office 365 and some of those tools, you're going to want to make sure your knowledge of those tools is up to date. Cloud computing just refers to using any technology that keeps your files in the cloud. So instead of a file being saved on a local desktop, like my computer, all of my files are saved on servers associated with DePaul or with whatever other accounts I have. So cloud computing is really anything from document creation, presentation design, databases, etc., that lives in the cloud. And this, like I said, it was number 2 in the most in-demand skills for 2020 pre-pandemic. So it's going to be really important. If you don't have Google Drive on your resume, if you don't have 365 and Teams and all of those tools, you're going to want to add them. This is the slide where I talk about, there's different kinds of cloud computing. And like I said, I'm really focusing on the basics here. This kind of cloud computing I'm talking about is described as software as a service. I don't use this expression in my daily life. This is just a way for those folks who have more advanced knowledge of cloud computing to understand this is what we're talking about. We're just talking about apps where they store the information in the cloud. No matter what computer you're working on, you can access, you can live edit the information. In many cases, multiple users can be in the same document at the same time. And that in a remote world is very important, but is important when you're not remote as well. Even as an example, at DePaul, we have 2 campuses. So I'm not on the same campus as half of my team, even when we're in person. Some of these programs are totally free. Google and the Google Suite is totally free. Office 365 is another common one. I use that through my DePaul subscription. They have a lot in common, so learning one will teach you a little bit about the other, but they also have some proprietary technology. So if you haven't, and this is where I'll dip out really quickly, and I'm assuming most of you have some knowledge of Google. Whoops, let me get back, sorry. This is just an example of what a Google Drive looks like. This is where you can access the ability to create a doc, a sheet, a slide, a form, and so on and so on. And Google continues to add these apps that serve different purposes. But what is central to cloud computing is all of these live not on my computer, but in the cloud, and they offer a lot of opportunity for collaboration. So for example, you guys are going to be doing a checkout poll today. I'm just going to go into this doc. This is where we keep the script for the checkout poll you're going to be doing. I can click on, instead of editing up here in the top right, I can click on suggesting. I can say, you know what, let's do, instead of before participating, I might say in advance of attending. And it will appear, these tools in cloud computing are really designed, let me make this a little bit bigger, to facilitate collaboration on content and on projects. So you can see in suggesting mode, someone has to click approve. So the person I'm working with has to click approve to accept this edit. I'm just suggesting them. That's just one small example of a function that I would see as core to cloud computing. Any questions? I'm going to get back to that presentations, but any questions about Google Suite? Dropbox also counts as one of these software as a service. That's another host for files where you can work in that space. Salesforce is a more complicated version of that. Slate is another version of that. They also have different services outside of Google Suite. Google Suite and Office 365 are probably the most basic and common forms of these. But any questions about cloud computing just as a remote technology? Great, let me just make sure I have my chat open because I did say you can put questions in the chat, but I can't see them. So let me make sure that's open. Great, that'll be open on the side for me. All right, so SaaS or software as a service is the most common. Again, on my resume, I do not have language around software as a service. I only have Google Suite and 365, etc. Platform as a service. Now here we're talking about tools that help you create applications. So they help you design applications. Some of these are even designed to be user-friendly for people who don't have coding skills. So for example, I dipped into Windows Azure to see what this would feel like to actually develop an app, to create an app without deep knowledge of coding and development. And it is user-friendly to a point, but this is definitely like when we're talking about cloud computing as a really core skill, this is on the more advanced end of the spectrum. And so is let me see today. Sorry, I'm trying to have everything appear at the same time. So is the infrastructure as a service, which again, when we're seeing infrastructure, you can tell we're talking about servers, we're talking about the physical infrastructure. So I only kept these slides in here just to be clear. When we talk about cloud computing, there's 3 layers, but the focus I would primarily have are those typical cloud tools like 365, etc. One of the things we want to make sure everyone knows is you don't have to take a course to upskill in these categories. You do not need to spend money to add a skill like this to your resume. Truly, YouTube has a video to train you on anything. I mean, I removed wallpaper in my house based on a YouTube video, so you can definitely learn some of these more basic tools just by watching YouTube instructional videos. Also, a lot of these tools themselves, and this will be definitely true for the other tools I talk about, have their own tutorials because that's part of their business offering. Even when you have a free version, they will offer opportunities to learn these tools. Do you need to be an expert in every app on Google Drive to put the Google Suite on your resume? No, you don't. You need to have basic familiarity with some of the most core functions there. So YouTube, webinars, product demos. There's an app called the PwC Digital Fitness app that I will include in a follow-up email to you that you can test your digital fitness on. And Udemy has courses, Coursera, of course. I just want to stress that you don't have to pay for these services. Now, LinkedIn Learning courses, if you're a current student, you have free access to that. You can also do a very temporary premium account. It's only 1 month and access some of these LinkedIn Learning courses as well. But if you choose to do the free trial of premium, just give yourself some kind of a reminder, because premium is relatively expensive, and I hate for anyone to leave here and spend money to learn these tools. This link that I'll include in the follow-up is actually to a really fabulous YouTube video that just introduces kind of the concept of what cloud computing is. It doesn't teach you any of the tools, but it makes it really clear and easy to understand what we're talking about when we talk about cloud computing. All right, let's get into some more specific functions here. Real-time communication tools are very, very important. And the differentiation here is between email. Email exists, there's a timestamp on an email, but the intention for email is typically you go in the morning, maybe you have it open all day and you dip in and dip out. What's great about these tools as a distinction from email is that they are designed to be more conversational, right? They don't always have subject lines. They don't always have, they very rarely have a signature or a you know, regards or any of that. They're for immediate communication, real-time communication. And they are replacing a lot of the work you would normally do via email and making conversations more efficient, as well as tracking those conversations in one place. Personally at DePaul, we use Outlook for email, and it's a disaster. Like, I can't find anything. I mean, I'm also using a Mac, which doesn't make it easy. I'm obsessed with our real-time communication tools. Now, the list here, when we first started using these tools at the beginning of the pandemic, and we'd played with it, but the pandemic really forced us as an office to use these religiously. We used the free Slack account for a very long time, and it was fabulous, and I'll get into what these all feature. We ended up losing content because the disadvantage of the free account is you can't archive past a certain volume of files. So we started losing stuff in an archive, and so we switched to Teams, which is great. I think the user experience is better on Slack, but if your organization's already using Teams, you should be in there. Google Chat has a similar function. Twist is another competitor, and so is Flock. I'm going to show you quickly. This screenshot is what Slack looks like, and I'll show you Teams in just a minute. But what I love about this real-time communication is it has a couple different ways to communicate. Typically, there are channels or teams. So in Teams, they call them teams. In Slack, they call them channels. So this channel accounting or help design or media and PR would have subscribers, right? So in my office, there's a channel or a team message board just for the advisors. It's called advising. And we all subscribe to that. What's great about these real-time communication tools is, like email, they have notifications. So I get a notification on my desktop or my phone when I get a message, and then I know I have it open all day. I'm having multiple organic conversations happening at the same time and still having a visual track of it in a way that's much more seamless than email. In addition to these channels that groups are attached to, there are also direct messages. So we're all familiar with that. You know, 100 years ago, people used AOL, people were direct messaging using other tools. These are great because sometimes you're talking to a group, sometimes you're talking to two people, sometimes you're talking to individuals, and they're organized in different areas so that you can kind of use them differently. They also include the ability to attach, to embed photos, to in the paid version of Slack, you can do video calls. We are in the paid version of Teams. Let me pop out and show you that. This is the Career Center's Teams page. Let me see if I can make this bigger. So you can see on the left-hand side is where I'm doing all my navigation. These are the actual teams. So you can see I have my advising team where I'm asking questions, posting stuff. You can use GIFs in here. You can reply to a particular message. You can also just do a thumbs up, like I saw that, great, reply with emojis. And what's great is everyone who's subscribed to this, all my advisors, get a notification when I post something. So last night I put up the agenda for today's meeting. That was this morning. And so they all got a notification when they came in the next morning. Here's the agenda. This is what we're going to be talking about. All these other channels have different groups on them. The way this group is operations, meaning the folks who make the Career Center function, They use this board for signing in and signing out for their student employees. We have many, many student employees in the Career Center, and they sign in so we know who's there, and then they sign out when they're out. And it's just a really easy, immediate way to track that. Now, is it fun to look at? No, but is it useful on that day when I'm like, oh, I wonder if Carl's still here? I can dip in and see when he signed in and see when he signed out. In addition, you can see the video function is here. So I can be in one of these channels and start a video meeting, just like a Zoom meeting, but it's a team meeting. And it'll show, they look a little different from Zoom meetings, but there's a lot in common. You can share screen, you can do all of that. In addition to the Teams, in Microsoft Teams, the chat is in a separate section. So you can see that the chat here is organized by the folks I work with. So I might go in here and just do a new chat and say, all right, I'm gonna send this to Kalen, who I work with. Sorry, it wants me to put his last name in. And I'll find him. And what I love about it is it archives. It archives all the information so I can go back to our previous chat. You can also do phone calls. It also keeps your calendar. So I can be in, you can see right now, I'm in this presentation. I can do a meet now from my calendar and invite folks to that as well. So it's a really great tool. Slack is great too. If you're not, like I'm not a native Microsoft user, I'm a Mac user. So I loved Slack so much. It was really perfect for me. But you know, as default, we use Teams. And so there's pluses and minuses to all of those. But there's competitors, and these are going to change really quickly in terms of who offers what and why. But again, for free, you can create a free Slack account, add 1 or 2 people to it, and just play with it. And all of a sudden, if you've played with this for a couple of days, this is something you have basic knowledge of, and you can add this to your portfolio or to your resume. In terms of upskilling, I think the best way to do that is by using it. So if you have a family project, if you have a volunteer project, it's easier to learn in a group. You can teach yourself on your own, because you can, but it's a lot easier if you're actually doing something with it. And there are some great LinkedIn learning courses. I'll also be sending you a link to a great video introducing real-time communication tools. I don't remember if this one is focused more on Slack or Teams. So if you're more interested in one or the other, YouTube's got a lot of great content for either of those. Any questions about some of the real-time communication tools? I want to admit that on a job application or a job description, you're not going to see familiarity with real-time communication tools. You will see Slack, you will see Microsoft Teams. But if you know one, you know them all. And so I think it's important, like I would put Slack on my resume if I knew Slack. And if a job wanted me to know Teams, I'd play with the free version of Teams, just so that I could get it on there. All right. Project management. This has a little bit in common with the real-time communication, except that the main purpose of these tools is to plan projects. Now there's a lot of communication functions within most of these tools, but what I love about the ones we're going to talk about is that they make it visually immediate where a project is at and whose turn it is and what has to happen when. Like there's a visual immediacy to these tools that is the most valuable part of it. There's also a ton of notifications you can set up, and they're wildly customizable. Most of them allow you to create multiple boards, and that's again where we get to the visual thing. It's like literally a screen where you control what the first, second, third, fourth, fifth step is. And they also have different views. So I'm going to let's get into some of your options. I will be showing you Asana because that's the one that we use. We used the free Asana for almost a year with no negative impact. The only reason we went to the paid version was because of the volume of our team. The size of our team was really the factor that pushed us over. If you're in a smaller team, the free version is great. Basecamp is a little bit more popular in tech places. Mondays has a lot in common with both of those. And they do a lot of advertising. So even if you Google Asana, you're gonna see an ad for Mondays right at the top. Trello looks a lot like Asana as well. And then Wrike is something they're using in creative industries. But again, you learn one of these tools, you learn them all. They have a lot in common. I'm gonna dip into our Asana. Okay, so if I just go to my Asana page, you can see already there's a visual immediacy that I think makes this really doable. Let me open my navigation. I'm gonna go to the first project we use this on. This is the Career Readiness Library. There are only 4 people on this team. This is we created over 50 handouts that I'm gonna talk about at the end that you guys all have access to, and this was our board for that. You can view in a list, so you can see all of the projects and where they're at, or you can view, let me turn that off, in a board. And what I wanna make sure you understand is, this is gonna take a minute to load, you determine what these steps are. So we created these steps, which was, what are the handouts we wanna make to do? Okay, in review means we're reviewing the writing. Complete means the writing is done. Oh, I think we skipped a step. This got edited recently because we also had a design phase in here, and then it printed and posted online. And what I love about this, so let's make a new one. I'm gonna do a new task and I'm gonna call it test handout. I make a new task in to do. I get into this, I can assign it. I'm gonna assign it to Jessie because she's used to me doing this during presentations. I'm gonna give her a due date of the 14th of December, which will automatically send her notifications and she can integrate her calendar into here. And then I'm also going to share her on a Google Doc that I've started the content in. So this is my Google Doc. This is the other benefit to both your real-time communication tools and your project management tools, is that they integrate with almost every other tool you're using. And I'm gonna just enter. Whoops, I didn't need to do that. Why is my screen not letting me click submit? See, it's telling me to upgrade because this is still in the free account. Okay, great. So now you can visually see Jessie here is assigned to this project. Now, when she finishes it, she can move it to in review, and she has privileges on this board as well. And she can then assign it to me. All right, Margie, it's ready for review. I need you to review it by the 11th. And I'm gonna add a comment like, ready for your edits, comment. And then I get a notification in my email that this is ready to go for me. And we customized these so we named all of these sections. We decided what the progress was. And like I said, there's multiple views. There's a calendar view. So you can see, this is an example. We don't actually use the timeline for this board, but there's a list view so that I can just go, okay, what's still in to do and who's it assigned to? Tara is our designer. We aren't really using due dates in this one. And then there's ways we can set status on this. There's just a lot of stuff you can do. Let me just show you a different board really quickly. I'm gonna pivot into my paid account, which doesn't look any different. It just has the ability to have more people participate. Excuse me. And I will show you some of my teams are using these boards for communication plans, and they're actually, I thought they were using the timeline. I guess they're not. Oh, this one's a template, I'm sorry. Let me go back. I think healthcare and science is probably doing, no. Oh, sorry, I'm going everywhere here. Okay, so this is resources part 2. You can see that we have a very similar structure. This is handouts that are specific to career communities, and then we move things over when they're done and they get assigned to the other people. So like, it's very customizable. You can create as many of these projects as you want. Here's another one that's updated. They use the calendar view for understanding what their marketing plan is. And they track that. And these notifications go to their emails based on when they need to get parts of this done. And so their board, they're just using the calendar. They don't need a progress piece because this is more about a schedule. But these project management tools are very robust. They have a lot in common, so learning any of them is going to be helpful to you. And I don't think there's an industry that isn't going to be using them. This link is a YouTube link that kind of goes through some project management tools. I think this one is focused on Asana. Any questions about those tools at all? All right, I know this is a lot. I'm sorry I'm talking at you so much. This is the one I'm not going to talk about that much because you're here, you know about Zoom. Everyone's using Zoom. There's all kinds of other options. GoToMeeting, Teams has the video option. Like I said before, there's a video option in Slack. There's a video option in some of those real-time communication tools. It's just important to know and be aware of if a job is asking for knowledge of video conferencing tools, make sure you have Zoom and some of these other things on your resume. That being said, as a presenter in Zoom, there's all kinds of functions you can use. They're not complicated. They're not hard to learn. Okay, we're gonna kind of go quickly over that one. This one is probably the most technologically, well, I don't know if I'd say it's really that technologically advanced, but a content management system is really just a tool that manages websites. So Wix, as an example, I'm sure you've seen ads for Squarespace or Wix. Those are different content management systems, right? It sounds complicated, but it's really just a tool that helps you create a website. And it used to be, like I remember the days when you had to literally write or get help writing HTML code to design and create a website. Nowadays, websites are very easy to make, and jobs that weren't always attached to this work are now attached to this work. It used to be that you had to have a web developer do all of your website updates. That's not necessarily true anymore. In my job at the University of Minnesota, I was an academic advisor. I was updating our website using our content management system because it is that user-friendly. And increasingly, this isn't specialized knowledge. So let's get into, so a CMS or content management system helps you create content, store content. It has to do with assigning privileges to edit content and then publish that content. And that's the thing that's a little bit different from some of these other tools. You make a change and then you publish the change within these content management systems. The ones, they vary a lot. I'm going to get into Wix because that's the one that I think is easiest for people to dip into for free. Drupal is, I use Drupal at the University of Minnesota. It's a real, it has very limited options for the user, but I thought it was really easy to use. But that's because I had taught myself Squarespace and Wix and Go Live and other tools before that. Joomla, Magento, Modex, those are other options that corporations might be using. At DePaul, we use SharePoint. Sometimes you'll see a technology in a job description and go, what the heck is that? Like I wouldn't know what Joomla is until I Googled it. And if I Googled it and saw some screenshots, I'd be like, oh, this is a lot like WordPress, or this is a lot like Wix. They have a lot in common. They're just, some of them offer different proprietary templates and functions. But if you want to teach yourself any of these, I would say WordPress and Wix are the two that are the easiest to teach yourself for free. Squarespace is easy too. I'm going to dip out real quick into my Wix account. And I'll just show you. So this is my free Wix account. I haven't paid a cent. I'm not interested in paying for this. If you were going to use a website, you would probably want to purchase a domain name. But if you're just teaching yourself one of these tools, get a free site. Don't worry about the domain name. It doesn't matter what your domain name is. It'll say, do you want to buy a domain name? And you can say, no, 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 and just keep whatever it is. So I'm going to create a new site. This is using Wix. I'm going to say I want this to be a designer because they probably have cute templates. Now I can either use an automated one and play with that, or I could choose a template. Let's choose a template. I'm going to, oh, this one's cute. All right, so let's click on this edit. What I love about Wix, and this is the future of content management. This isn't only Wix. A lot of these tools work this way. They feature a drag and drop interface so that you actually can, I mean, each tool is going to work a little bit differently. You can see all these lines. It gets kind of confusing really quickly. But if you click on background over here on the left, I can click on image, and then I can upload media, and I can grab whatever background I want on here, or I could use one of their templates, but I figured why not just show you how you can grab it. Let's see what I have in here. This could take a minute. My downloads folder is overwhelmed. I should have set this up so that I knew exactly what file I was going to grab, but I didn't. Let's do, I know what I want. Let's go really low. Oh, this is, no, it's not alphabetical. Sorry, I should have picked one first. I actually like this picture. We'll do this one. This is the president of Northeastern University who wrote a great book called Robot Proof that gives all of us creatives hope for the future, because it's all about how future skills are going to be robot creativity. All right, so let's say this, we can crop and edit it, but we're just going to do that. And then I'm going to click manage, choose it, and then I'm going to change background. Now, what I've noticed with Wix is it doesn't always show the change right away. And it is a little idiosyncratic compared to some of the other, there he is. All right, finally he's there. It is a little idiosyncratic depending on what other tools you're used to, but if you haven't learned anything and you start with Wix, you'll actually learn the way they work. I'm too used to Squarespace and some other tools, but there's also a ton of tutorials to teach yourself how to do this. Now, I started with a template. You don't have to start with a template. And most of this is literally just clicking on the thing you want to edit. And then I'm going to go to manage media. Okay. I want to get rid of that lady. I'm just going to say to this, remove. This started with a gallery, so I was already working with this gallery. Okay, and then I'm done. So now I should just have my background president here, who is the background for the whole website. Now, is this good design? No, but am I learning this tool that then ultimately creates the HTML? And this is a great way to learn HTML. Let me see if I can view dev mode, turn on dev mode. Okay, I don't want that, sorry. Then you can sometimes, if you know any HTML, you can see how on the bottom it shows me some of this. I can put in some of the HTML that I know in here, but we're not going to do that right now because we're just dipping into Wix. WordPress, very similar, just a little bit different in terms of the menu-driven commands, but you can learn for free on WordPress and Wix without too much difficulty, particularly if you have the time to put into watching some tutorials or instructional videos. If you're someone who really hates this kind of thing, put the time into those tutorials and instructional videos. Questions about Wix or WordPress or content management? Nope. Okay, I want to make sure that was basically the remote technology I was planning on covering tonight. I would love if anyone has questions or would like more advanced. One of the remote technology skills that I think is going to be increasingly in demand are remote management. So the project management is one way to tackle that, but there are other tools for remote training that I didn't dip into because they're beyond a basic. I also want to make sure you guys know about our career library. That is a library of over 50 handouts and 14 videos that go from basic to advanced content, some of which is really recently updated. So you can see this handout on the right-hand side is the basics of working remotely. It doesn't get into all of the tech, but it does start. We also have sample cover letters, sample resumes, and things like that in our career library. And if I hide this little thing, you can see it's go.depaul.edu career library. I will be putting that link in the follow-up email that I send you. I'm gonna quit screen sharing. Oh, let me show you one more thing, sorry. Let me get out of this presentation. I'm gonna show you one more thing. I talked a lot about adding this stuff to your resume. I am still screen sharing, great. Can you guys see the MC resume optimizer? It says I'm screen sharing, so I hope you can. I just don't see that green line anymore. Oh, let me do new share. Okay, we're good. All right. So the resume optimizer is a free tool offered by MC. If you want to play with it right now, I'm going to throw the link in the chat. Thank you guys for answering that chat. What I love about it is it mimics an applicant tracking system, which is great because 95% of jobs go through an applicant tracking system. Only 30% of resumes are ever reviewed, meaning 70% go straight to the garbage because they're scanning for keywords. This tool mimics an applicant tracking system. I'm going to load an example here. Now, typically you would copy and paste your resume into here, but we're going to just use the example one for you guys. It immediately, the first thing it does without doing anything after you copy and paste is it identifies all of the skills that an applicant tracking system would find in here. And MC is a data company that pulls data from both job postings and current LinkedIn profiles. So it's real-time updated. So this is great because it tells me what skills it's found. Call center, problem solving, great. It tells me I found 12 skills. This example is not a great example. You should definitely have more than 12 skills on your resume. But then the other piece of this tool that I love is if we go into job title, I'm going to just do media planner. We'll do media specialist. It will then both tell you which key skills you have on your resume, and then it will load what skill opportunities, what skills you're missing. Now, in this case, it's not giving us the names of any software. That doesn't mean you don't need to have software on your resume. You need to look in your job descriptions that you're applying to or the opportunities and see if they call out certain software and make sure they're in there. But in this case, it's telling me I need somewhere on my resume the phrase public relations, press releases, journalism, newsletters, marketing communications, just so the human eye looks at this. So I love this tool. I think it's really fabulous. It's not the only thing I use to determine if my resume is ready to go, but this is one of the first things I'll do just to make sure all the skills I need are coming out. And I will be attentive to the skills that they call out in the job description. And on that note, I just wanted to also point out, so today is the Alumni MasterClass. Tomorrow we're doing a job search marathon, which is a little different from this. The first half hour will be some basics around job search, but then we'll be breaking into breakout rooms, doing peer-to-peer feedback on cover letters, resume, job search, LinkedIn, etc. So it's a little more interactive. That is from, I think, 3 to 4:30 or 3:30, I don't remember. But that one's a little more interactive. But if you just want to hear our spiel on all of our pro tips on resumes and job search, that's Wednesday, December 9th. That's me next week just saying, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, answering questions. It's really all of our pro tips about if you're in a job or internship search, what are the things you could be doing that you might be doing, but that you might not be doing yet. One of the things I'll talk about is the MC Resume Optimizer, but I'll also be talking about communicating directly with hiring managers, a little bit about resume design, tailoring resumes and cover letters for specific opportunities, LinkedIn, all of that stuff. So that's happening on the 9th. All of these are on Handshake. And we are not recording the job search marathon tomorrow because that's an experiential event, like that's really interactive, but we will be recording the career toolkit. So if you can't make it, you can RSVP, you'll get the recording, the slide deck, and all the pro tips there. So just want to make sure you guys know that's available. Let me also just quickly go to our career library, and then I'll answer some questions. This is where we have the over 50 handouts that we spent a year making. And if you're like, you know, I know the basics, we're here for you. We have a lot of more advanced stuff too. We have a whole section of COVID specific content that we updated at the beginning of spring, but we also have how to handle a resume gap, optimizing your resume for applicant tracking systems, mastering the video interview, organizing your job and internship search. I'll talk about that next Wednesday too. Engaging with professional groups, LinkedIn, you know, everything from top to bottom. And this is getting updated pretty consistently. I think we've got about 7 or 8 new ones that are coming probably in January. But these are all resources for you that we want to make sure you know about. In addition, we do have these 15 quick videos. You'd be surprised what we can fit into 90 seconds. I know I'm the opposite of that. I could talk for 6 hours. I am going to stop sharing and take questions if anybody has a question. Anybody have a specific question about some of the remote technologies? While you're thinking about it, I'm going to quickly launch a poll. This is what we, at the end of every event, we check out. We like to get feedback from folks about their experience. While you're at it, I'm currently trying to come up with the Alumni MasterClass content for winter. One of the things I've been thinking about is LinkedIn Advanced for alumni, because most of you use LinkedIn, but there's probably some things on there that you could be doing differently. But if you have ideas for content, throw them in the chat. All right, I see the question about provide a course around managing a remote team. I'm going to tell you right now, there is a course that's kind of related to that. That's sometimes free. Let me find this. And I will throw it in the chat. So there is, let me see if they're advertising it. There's a course that this tech company offers. It's a certificate bearing course and they offer it for free pretty regularly. I'm quickly skimming to see if I can find it. Come on. I made my text so big, it's hard to skim. Webinars, insights, resources. So the company I'm referring to is NovoEd. I'm going to send a link in the chat to NovoEd. Now, they're a tech company, so they sell a platform that other people, that corporations use for managing and training employees. Stanford also uses this platform for some of their courses and programs. It's a beautiful platform. There's no way in the world anyone can afford, any higher ed institution other than Stanford could afford to use it. But they have some fabulous courses and content. I'm quickly skimming to see if they have, if that particular course, let me Google it real quick, is being offered. It's called NovoEd Learning Experience Design, which is, sounds like it's all about learning, but most of the folks who took this course when I took it and was certified by it were in HR and were managing remote teams. Oh, they are offering it in February. So let me throw this right here. And it's free and you can get certified. So it's that second link, NovoEd Resources Events Foundation of Learning Experience Design. It is truly the most beautiful learning experience I've been in online. It's just seamless. It did take me about 2 to 3 hours a week, but it's totally free. And you can look through the course timeline and assignments. Like I said, it's about learning experience design, but most of the people in that course were people who were in HR or learning to manage and train remote teams. Any other gotcha questions? I'm going to stop recording because I don't know if there are any other questions. Oh, whiteboard functionality.